All right, in this video, I want to go over the SIG 556. When the United States said they wanted a version of the SIG 550 or the SG 550, SIG in New Hampshire said, we're going to deliver something, and it became the 556 for the United States. Very similar to the SIG 550, but also a little bit different. Started out in 2007, I think, is when they started making these. And by 2017, SIG had stopped making them. On this one that I have right here, it's a swap model. Comes with a longer handguard. Has a fixed front sight base up here. And it has an adjustable stock for length and everything. I swapped out the original SIG grip that had a weird angle on it and replaced it with a Hogue. Also added a CCA small like broomstick handle on the front right here. Original optic I put on it was a SIG, but it sat too low and got in the way of the front sight, so I replaced it with a Vortex Spark. But I'm gonna go over this rifle right here, and then I'll go inside and do a disassembly of it, and if there's enough time, I'll even do a reassembly of it. All right, so for the United States, SIG ended up adding an A2 flash suppressor compensator to the front of it. It has a 1 7" barrel twist. It retained the adjustable gas system, which is 2-position. You can twist it to allow more gas if it ends up clogging up, or turn it back to regular. They added a hooded front sight ramp. On some of them they had one that would fold down. This one right here is fixed, similar to like an HK style. Also has a Picatinny rail on it. And inside I'll show you how the rail system comes off and everything. There's a little bit of a trick to it. You are able, if you really want to, you can get a little mount that goes in this small piece right here. And you can mount a bayonet to it if you so desire to do that. God bless the USA. SIG included their magazine with it, and the SIG 550s had a neat kind of yellow translucent one where the magazines themselves could clip together. On the ones that SIG made, they can clip together, but there's a little piece in between. Hopefully I'll have time to show you that inside. Instead of having the traditional paddle grip to take the magazine out and everything, SIG added the American style magazine release for the 5.56 NATO magazines that everybody's using. The grip angle on it originally kind of sat back a bit, a little bit harder to get the controls. There is safe and fire. It's at a 45-degree angle throw, so you're not doing a 90-degree throw like on some weapons. It is piston operated, which is great. Very simple and easy design to operate with. The folding stock is kind of neat. However, on this one right here, the buttstock part right here is cracking, and like I said, in 2017 they stopped making them. I believe you can send them back into SIG if you need to get them repaired, but if you have one, I recommend you do it soon, because eventually they're probably not going to have any more parts for this. Overall, it's a great rifle, reliable design and everything, but when they made it for America, they also used an aluminum frame on it versus the steel one. So some of the changes they made are stuff people like and don't like. Personally, I wish SIG would have been introduced and brought over their actual SIG 550, but the 556 is what we got, so let's go in and look at it deeper. All right, so the rifle here is cleared, no rounds in it or anything. SIG supplies these 2 magazines with it. The magazines are designed to be clipped together, and they just kind of slide in. They're slightly offset on these little grooves right here, but they're designed to be similar to the SIG 550 magazines. They were like a yellow translucent, and they were able to actually clip together, and you could put 3 of them together, which was kind of neat, and then you could just move over as you shot. But you could do the same thing with this. You'd have to get another adapter. Only one adapter came with the SIG when I got it. It also came with a nice rear sight, kind of like a HK style that rotates. You have a notch. Then you also have your holes for 100, 200, and 300. But this right here is kind of a neat feature. On the 550s, they were basically welded to the back. On these right here, it's an attachment. I don't know if all of them came with it or not, but hit or miss. I would have rather have it fixed myself, but it is what it is. And then with the rifle itself, you also have kind of a emergency pop-up rear sight. It's real limited. I don't think it'll show here, but just a hole with some notches. You can adjust it for range if you need to, but that's about it for that. The rifle breaks down pretty simply. If you want to do a basic field cleaning like you're a soldier in the military and everything. The pins that are here for takedowns are kind of recessed, but if you wanted to disassemble it and everything, all you need to really do is put it on safe or fire, whatever you want to have it on. If you push the rear pin here, it allows you to pull this part out and shotgun it. And I'll flip it around. Once you shotgun it like this, it's pretty simple. There's a little lever right here that you can push down on, and this right here is the charging handle. So if you push down on the lever, pull up on the charging handle part right here pulls out. Then you just basically push it back. And this right here is your bolt carrier group, similar to like an AK-47 or something like that. You just don't have the operating rod. And that's basically all you need to do to disassemble and clean it in the field. If you want to break it down further, you can do that, and I'll go in and do some of that. You have that front takedown pin that you can push in. So if you pull out the other takedown pin, basically that's all you need to do to remove the lower from the upper. And then to take apart the upper, there's a couple different ways you can do it. I'll do it, I guess, this way, taking off the handguard so you can probably see more clearly. But if you kind of pull back and down on the handguard, then you'll be able to remove it. There's a notch here that it kind of holds on to, but that'll be the lower handguard. Then the upper handguard has these little grooves in here that kind of match in and holds it in place. And this right here is the barrel and piston assembly. Really don't need any tools to do most of this stuff. If you push in right here on a detent, you can rotate the gas tube part around, and it allows you to take out the cap right here. When this cap comes out, you can also take out the guide rod or piston part from the front. And then once you have this rotated, there's a little notch like a U-shape. And if you get the U-shape lined up there, then you can end up pretty much just pulling it straight out. And that's basically the disassembly of it. You have your upper half up here, the guide rod, which is a really nice guide operating rod, your barrel assembly, and then a gas tube thing. In here you have some holes and ports. From time to time you may want to clean the holes and ports in it and everything. This part that rotates in here, part of the gas system, it has two holes in it. As far as I can tell, both holes are the same size, but I guess as it plugs up in the piston and everything, you can rotate it and it'll give it an opening hole to operate off of. The guide rod itself is pretty nice. I don't know how well it'll show up on here, but it's similar to a M240 machine gun where it has grooves in it. It's not like a solid round one like an AK-47. It has individual grooves in it to kind of help with strength and also reduce weight probably. But that's the basic system. You have the piston part right here, a little bit of a relief hole here. It is important when you put it back in to put it in a certain way, and I'll show you why here in a second. All right, so like I showed you earlier, when you disassemble it, all you really need to do is take out the simple bolt piece. But when it's in the firearm itself, this rod has to go in and line up with a hole right here. And that hole is going to be where your charging handle goes. Now you have your curved part here, like you pull it back as normal. They also write up on it here. I don't know how well it'll show, but it says up, so that way you know which way is up. Obviously, if you have a curved finger, it's going to be that way. And it ends up ultimately sliding in place here. So what you're doing is you're basically releasing the lock lever for it and then pushing the pin in, and that ends up holding it in place. So it basically becomes like a complete operating rod. And that's something I think that's kind of neat about the way the system works. Real simple and easy for soldiers and stuff to use. For the average civilian, I don't know how much it comes into a factor, but very simple, easy design. I think SIG kind of hit a home run with it on the internal parts. The 550 is a great rifle. The Americanization they did on the outside was kind of a bit of a miss, I think, in my opinion, but it is what it is. SIG canceled this, like I said, in 2017, and the MCX seems to be the thing they want to go to now. But I'll go ahead and reassemble this and talk about it a little more. Reassembly and everything. The gas plug right here is going to go in, and it's going to lock into place kind of on the left here. So you want to slide it in a certain way, then just the way you have that little notch, you want to line it back up similar to how you took it apart and everything. It'll slide back in. And once you get it back into its place, you can rotate it and it'll lock. And you'll know you have it right if it locks into two places like that. So once you know you have it locked into two places, that little plug comes in and out. You have your piston assembly. Remember, this notch part right here is part of putting it back together, so you want to put that part flat when you put it back in. Then you have your gas tubes to put back in, line up right, depress it, and it'll lock into place. And like I said, it has a rotation for extra gas going in. Close it off, you don't want the extra gas going in. For the hand guards, you have your front and rear. If you put the front one on first, it kind of clips towards the front part and rests on there. And then this one right here has the little tip that's on the front. You kind of line the tip up with it and get it all into place, and it'll clip in. But it just kind of slides up. Let me line this up right. All right, once the hand guards clip back on, you want to make sure that the hole in the bottom part of the hand guard is lined up for when you end up putting things in. The bolt's going to go on. There's two rails inside here, and the bolt's going to basically go and sit inside the two rails that are on there. So you want to make sure it's kind of lined up when you put it in. And it'll just, well, slide right in like that. When it slides in, if you have the guide rod and everything done correctly, then you can just insert the charging handle in there. Once you have the charging handle in there, pretty much good to go. Put the upper and lower receivers together. But like I said, this front hand guard has to be lined up. But once it's all back together and you're good to go, you'll charge it, put it on safe, attempt to pull the trigger, charge it, put it on fire, and it's good to go. But like I said, SIG made this. Pretty good rifle. I wish they would have kind of stuck with it. There are little issues, like I said, with the buttstock right here kind of deteriorating away. I do wish that they made a fixed sight that was mounted on here like the 550 had, but instead they did this. The aluminum receiver I thought was kind of neat. I would have preferred a paddle release. You do have the release here. It's kind of hard to get to. Let me grab grip real quick just to show you the factory grip. So here's the factory grip. With the hoe grip, if you end up owning one of these, the hoe grip makes it a lot easier as far as being able to reach the safety and everything. It also gives you a little bit longer grip to purchase it, but the factory grip sits a little bit shorter and a little bit more of an angle going backwards. So with the factory grip, it's a lot harder to get to where the trigger is, and you really can't get to where the safety is or anything. So if you have one of these, I do highly recommend a hoe grip. But like I said, this is an aftermarket forward grip I put on here. I did try a angled foregrip. If I could do it all over again, I probably would have got the Patrol over the SWAT, because there is a lot of weight and it sits pretty far up on the front end here. But if you can find a SIG 556, I think it's a great rifle to have. Not necessarily the most accurate rifle out there, and some people do complain about the trigger a bit, which there's a little plunger spring here that gives some resistance to it, but it's kind of like a combat rifle where you don't want a simple lightweight trigger. You want something that has a little bit of pull to it. But the piston system and the setup is great. SIG decided to go from these to the MCX, which they're pushing for the military and other stuff. So rather than having two competing lines, they just ended up dropping off to 5.56. But like I said, it's a great rifle. If you can find one out there for a decent price, highly recommend getting them. Pretty reliable platforms. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Cav Cop out.